Howdy, good evening. I've been experiencing a little bit of this silly kind of what we might call a touch of the you-know-what bug. And so instead of coughing at you, I really wanted to share this. I've been studying some more. And as I went back through this, I thought this is so vital and so important. We should review these again, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to put them out, and it's always good to see this and take it in. I kid you not that I learn something new every time, even though I'm the one that did it in the beginning. And I just perpetually learn something else. It somehow fits in and absorbs. So I hope this guy works for you guys. And it's nice to see you all here. I'm so excited to see you, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being here, and feel free to share this. So without further ado, I'm going to mute and jump off, and you are going to watch with me this really important closure by the chief. Okay? And this was actually recorded in 2019. Okay, here we go.
One man is growing old and one man is being told that his land is not his own now. He has no place called home. He must learn to be and grow and find time to feed his soul. When he learns to be alone, he will find that he is whole. Gonna break free tonight. Gonna take these chains, gonna make it through the night.
Hello, my name is Winifred Adams, and I'm the host here on Making Life Brighter, and that's on YouTube and also on the Variety Channel on Voice America. You can also find Making Life Brighter Radio on Voice America through iTunes, and you can go to the Voice America host page. Why I'm coming to you today here specifically on YouTube is because I've been quiet for quite a while. And I've been quiet because the narrative was spinning out of control and it needed to stop. There were too many things that were swirling, essentially. And the energies were not conducive to closure or further closure on things. And so it was better to opt out instead of saying something that was just to say something. But now I have something to say. And I have something very important I want to share with you right now. The story, the real life story of Commander Gould, or otherwise known as Russell J Gould. Russell's story is so profound and struck me as something that the world not only needed to know, but the world needed to adopt. And since then, I've gone to great length to figure out the truth behind this story. And I have not been let down in that truth. In today's special supplement, I want to share with you a never before released interview, the very first interview I ever did with this amazing individual. This man single-handedly, through peace and neutrality, saved this country and is perhaps one of the greatest patriots of all time. In addition to that, he did it without a gun or a club. He did it on paper. He did it by contract. Only you, the mass public out there, the citizens of the world, most of you don't know that. Despite the interviews that have been done, despite the most recent film that was released in December, Piercing Dynasty, and despite Last Flag Standing and all the interviews I did subsequent to that, why is it the world doesn't know this? So first of all, before I share this groundbreaking, incredible interview full of closure that every single person needs to hear, I want to share with you what's more important is this is exact timing. The fact this wasn't released early on, but has been discovered, rediscovered right now, which is what happened the other night. I thought the files were gone. I happened to find them. Now they'll be released. And it couldn't be better timing. Why do I say that? Because a few days ago was the anniversary of the Notre Dame fire. And that anniversary happened at the time we were filming. In addition to that, there is closure by a fella today called Dutch Sense. And in the description of this interview, I'm going to put a recent link that he did in research that I want you to listen to. Because the Geospatial Agency has great capacity, and the capacity is not known by many people. It's like a military arm, a branch, but also has a vectoring with postal claimants. And as most people know who are live life claimants, you understand the depth of how the post office works in conjunction to your ability to state a claim, and in through all banking throughout the world, and also for people who join the military. But Dutch Sense has a interesting take on what's going on, and he doesn't actually know. I've reached out to him several times. I've asked him to come on the show. So anybody seeing this, if you want to reach out to him and have him come on the show, this man needs closure. He needs to understand what he's stumbling upon because he doesn't understand what's going on. And for all the truthers out there that think they know, this interview should put a cap on that very succinctly. The information that's given here has lent to even more understanding of the quantum construct that J. Gould and his partner at the time, Dave Wynn Miller, took to all the countries around the world and corrected a dirty, corrupt, ancient system that has you bound and tied and basically dead and lost at sea. So I'm going to be releasing a series of these interviews over the next few days. And this closure, some of it very raw, is me conducting a radio interview, not even meant to be a video, but it's so compelling, I want to release it as the video. And then other additional outtakes and some closure that I was getting at the time. Because understand, when I was doing these, I really didn't know what I know today. And you can see that in my line of questioning. You can see that in, the way I'm picking up information or trying to synthesize that information. But the closure that the commander gives is absolutely stunning. And it really couldn't be more appropriate for today. Why is that? Because today we're talking about Trump. But today is April 14th. And April 14th is very much in keeping with that Notre Dame fire. So I ask you, when you're done watching this, to go to the link and watch the Dutch Sense video, and then I'll post that link in there so that you can see the correlation of some of what I'm talking about. There is so much more information and so much more closure to this. This is only the beginning. This is for those of you that are following the truther movements, for those of you that are vested into the influencers, which means no fluencer. It means they have no true closure. You may want to really digest this information because what he says here is so compelling. Now, at the time I did this interview, Sergeant Robert Horton was his treaty captain, and Sergeant Horton makes an appearance here. On the Truth Tour down in Clearwater, I gave some closure about Sergeant Horton, and he ended up having a warrant out for his arrest by the commander-in-chief. I don't know what's happened since then, but I do know this. The closure that he gives at the time is true and honest, and I want you to hear that as well, because I feel like it is also, it helps to understand someone else's perspective of this system that was created, and it is profound closure. So I share this with you. I ask you to go to the link after the fact and watch the other Dutch Sense link, because it's going to add closure to this time frame, this window right here, right now in time. And what closure is given here is so profound. So not to take this lightly. We have much work in front of us as a world and a nation, but it's so well spelled out and described here that you are able to understand it in a way that just is mind-blowing. And you can see that in my responses as this information is coming at me in this interview, as well as in between the takes. Sergeant Horton and Russell are speaking to me, giving me so much information I have to synthesize it. All I can say is to the citizens of the world, technically, you don't know until you know. And you can't know until you actually go through the performances and try that on. You might know in your heart, but truly you have to come into joinder to understand that. And when you do, you'll see what this man did. And what he did turns every system on its head. And so for all those out there that are still playing in the fiction system of government politics, remember, all of that was taken down in 1999, and no one, not a single person, not one political leader has come forward to give you that closure. No one is telling you the truth, and you're going to hear it again right here. Take a listen to this. You're listening to Making Life Brighter, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams, and today we have a very special guest or guests, and we have a controversial interview that I have promised for you. And not only is it controversial, it's going to turn your belief system on its head. You are about to recognize truth that you have not yet known. Some of you have an idea, some of you are toying with the idea, and some of you have no idea. And I have with me today Commander-in-Chief Russell J. Gould and Special Operations Officer Robert Horton. And I'd like to introduce both gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here with us on Making Life Brighter Radio and for coming to speak about this very controversial and amazing topic.
Thank you, Winifred. It's a pleasure to be here. I am not an officer. I am a non-commissioned officer. I'm just a good old sergeant. So. But thank you.
Yes, well, you've had some tactical understanding in the past, I understand.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, Russell, can I call you Russell, or do
Yes,
I refer to you as Commander-in-Chief?
No, I go by Russell-J. Gould. I use hyphens and colons in my name to make compound facts. However, for the convenience of our audience and convenience of you, you can just call me Russell.
Okay, for today we'll call you Russell, but we understand that you are Commander-in-Chief. Can you tell us what you're Commander-in-Chief of specifically?
Well, I'm Commander-in-Chief of the now-space. And so let me give you a little background history. For the beginning of the United States or United States of America or the concepts of government here in North America. It was all based upon shipping constructs that were built out of the International Bureau of Weights and Measures to create sums and differences of ley lines for surveying land, surveying navigation, and these concepts were written in adverb communication. My former partner, who has passed, David-Win Colin Miller, and I, Russell-J. Colin Gould, set up a quantum corporate structure on a global scale to change the course of this planet and give the power back into the thinking of the people so that their thinking will never change the condition of the act, but they can pre-position, set, fact their life and create manifestations that will safeguard their families, safeguard them, and learn to communicate one with another.
Yeah,
So as Commander-in-Chief, I was the first life birth claimant to step forward and conduct a military court-martial in Washington, D.C. every 45 days starting on December 12th, 2004. And I ran that military court-martialing in the on Constitutional Avenue in the mall there on Thomas Jefferson Drive and Constitutional in Washington, D.C., where about 500 on average admirals, generals, vice admirals, George-Walker Colin Bush, Richard-Bruce Colin Cheney, and their staff members were summoned by me because of the bankruptcy of the United States in 1999. We had positioned ourselves at the United Nations, David and I did, on August 12th, 1999. And I then filed for my Postmaster-General position in July of 2001. And then the federal government vacated Washington, D.C. with the Florida Chads in the presidential election of, in July of 2000 is when I did my Postmaster General. And then in November of 2000, they physically left the District of Columbia and tried to kick off a new world order. And I caught them and I called them on it. And so I became.
When you caught them, what was their initial response to you when you called this out?
They physically beat the hell out of me. They starved me down. They used food as a weapon. They beat me up a whole bunch of times. They hauled me into mental institutions where I met with the U.S. military, Department of Navy psychiatrists who wanted to have a sit down with me about what I had done at the Pentagon. They verified everything that I said, and the civil psychiatrists went nuts that because the military took command and control because of the martial law. All courts in the United States are closed, which means the U.S. judicial system is actually a collection agency harvesting the ignorance of the people. And the people don't have the cognizance or the comprehension based upon the knowledge that they've been given to combat it. So they walk in, they spend their money, they spin their wheels, they hire their attorneys, and they lose. So it's when you watch my War Castles series documentary, you will find closure on the mechanics of how that all works.
And so when you went up against the Bushes and the Cheneys and basically called them out to say, you're not really in control of this country, I am, what happened then?
Well, what I was trying to do was I was trying to stop the 9/11 because it was a scam. And so we watched the money transfer on the 9/11 when the C4 went off, and the money transferred into Hong Kong out of New York. Mm-hmm. And so you can't make it up. This whole thing was a ruse of fakeness.
Wow.
And so my job as Commander-in-Chief and Postmaster General was, number one, I had a contract with the Department of Navy's office to safeguard the security of the American soldiers. But if the American soldiers are tricked and they go to war, they're not actually held accountable. They're leaders because the soldiers are following the chain of command. And that chain of command, they're not questioning the chain of command because they believe in their chain of command. But when the top has been so corrupt and they create the scenario to put our soldiers in harm's way, I felt it was my duty to stop and correct. And I alerted every base and every fort in the United States, in the geographical land of the United States, on the court-martialing and to come forward and so we can stop the grammar fraud that has put us into war here, because they weren't smart enough to go to war, which means that the U.S. military lacked knowledge on contract because they didn't have a flag to leave the country. I didn't authorize that because I had a lease contract with the Department of the Navy on the flag.
Did
So
they know that? Did they realize that? Did it come to some kind of?
Oh yeah, I was on the dealing with the Secretary of Michael Mullen. He was the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, so I was dealing direct with her, and you know, a lot of classified things were being articulated. They were in it for the money. I mean, I get it. You know, it's a money gig. I just felt sorry for the citizens in Iraq and the American soldiers who were losing their lives and putting themselves in harm's way, unbeknownst that there is no dinar savior, right? The dinar's fake. And so because of that, you know, they thought they were going to achieve something, and they're not going to achieve it. The U.S. military has asked me 26 times to endorse the dinar as comptroller of the global currency. I won't do that because 9/11 was based on a lie. And I'm not going to allow the fruits of that journey or that travail to benefit the American soldier. Just won't do it.
Well, that said, let's back up a minute, because people don't have context to who you are and how you've come to this position. And so let's talk about how you've come into this and realized that this even needed to be done, and this was something that you stumbled upon. I mean, here you are, an American guy doing XYZ, and then one day suddenly you run the country.
Well, what I did is I run the contracts. I took control of the contracts.
In quantum now speak.
In now space.
Right?
Yeah, in quantum now space with the math interface on communication, where we could syntax and identify the order of operation of words. Upon that, we reauthorized in a quantum syntax that's certified frontwards and backwards, middle to back, back to the front. So it has affinity loop of now space authority, which gave me the power and the authorization and the credentialing stemming from when I filed on August 12th, 1999 for the flag, and then it's substantiating it on July 12th, 2000. And then I waited for the federal government to actually physically leave the District of Columbia, and that was the Florida Chad election of 2000, where they had to leave for so many days to break the continuance of the evidence. So it's always about timelines and your comprehension of those timelines. And so I timed it, and the United States government had a knee-jerk reaction against me and did everything in their power but kill me to take my number from me, take my authorization, take my credentialing away. And all it did was made me humble. It made me more sure that what I had done was correct. And then I took it to a global level and restructured the quantum banking system, which I am the author of. And everybody out there that doesn't have a contract with me on the quantum banking, that is fake news. That is fake banking. The quantum banking system that the public sees in place is fake. I have not been given the fee for freight for them to use the concept of quantum.
So it's yours. You technically.
Well, I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote the program, and
you're the founder of that.
I am. I alerted all countries at the United Nations from July 3rd, 2003 to April 2003. We physically walked in the quantum bank charter into all embassies at the United Nations. We met with 82 ambassadors who gave me closure that they were going to give the bank charters to their country's treasury on the quantum banking system that I created. So yes, with full knowledge, I know, and the quantum banking system that is in place now by the actors that are there, is designed for the AI, the artificial intelligence, to be in control of the digital cyberspace war. My system was designed from postmaster to postmaster to create a bookkeeping journal for the bank customer, not cyberspace. So it required a little bit more due diligence, but by the bank customer, but it also gave clearance to that they could control and know where their values were, so the AI couldn't steal it.
Now, in your system, quickly, because we have about 1 minute till break, how does the whole Bitcoin type platform fit into a future of quantum with your system?
Well, Bitcoin is based in adverb verb, and so it doesn't really say anything. And so that's the problem with them. That's their loss and their customers' loss, not my loss. It's in violation of Title 18, 1343 wire fraud, because they're using fictitious grammar to create a cyberspace storage space using fraudulent grammar. And it's fake news.
Wow, we're going to blow it up here. Oh my goodness. I have so many questions for you. We'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and you can hear this entire interview on the archives on makinglifebrighter.com. But stay tuned, because we have much more for Commander Gould and Robert Horton when we come back. And we're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and I'm your host, Winifred Adams. And as I promised, we have a very special and controversial show today. We've been talking to Commander Gould, Russell J. Gould. And Russell, how do you say your name in the now time quantum speak?
Well, quantum speak, I use Russell -J Gould to make a compound fact. And the easiest way to look at this for our audience is if they can look on their cell phones right now, and they'll see the punctuation of the colon between time. Numbers are facts, and people are facts. But if you take the punctuation out of the concept of time, you create subjective interpretation, otherwise known as an adjective. So the first letter without the punctuation in time becomes an adjective, and the second letter becomes numbers become a pronoun. Sorry, not letters, but numbers. Mm-hmm. So you create an adjective pronoun scenario, therefore creating a no fact. So when I use the punctuation in my name, it creates a hard compound fact. That way nobody can create subjective interpretation on who I am.
Now, what if someone has the exact same name?
Well, then it goes to the word closures on the definitions. Each definition is a little bit different because each person has their own memory, has their own comprehension, has their own life's journey. That is each being's sovereignty, is being able to control that concept of who they are. And nobody can tell you who you are.
Now, that's what you've created in this new periodic table, speaking to all the quantum syntax that you have dissected and basically reworded. You've now made a quantum speak, a language, a new mathematical language here on Earth, so to speak. Am I correct?
It is a new scenario, giving chance and closure under Rule 1 and Rule Equal for All. It has a fee freight for transportation, so once the fee for freight is paid, then the contract can move forward. And so there's mechanical applications of contract dealing with the law of the flag. In this country, because the last bankruptcy on October 29th, 1929, 70 years is October 29th, or October 29th, 1999, under 3-day notice, which was when they elect their trustee for the bankruptcy, which was the president. They had to vacate the trusteeship as the president because there were no guidelines under the law of the flag to authorize a function. So all presidents since 1999 have been null and void. It's not actually a president. It's a corporation CEO, but the corporation doesn't have authorization to move anywhere because it doesn't have a flag and it doesn't have fee for freight for the transportation of the bills of the ladings.
So how then does someone get elected technically and operate an entire country or this country within the world?
Because the people are ignorant and they actually believe that there's a presidential election. They believe there's a sitting Congress because it is residual imagery of bombardment. That's why the television is constantly on. You go to the airports, you go anywhere in transportation, and they have their fake news going to program your minds into something that is not.
Now, how did you come into this? Let's go back to how you quote unquote captured the flag.
Yes.
let's talk about how you came into capturing that flag and what that means. But let's start with the bankruptcies in America.
Oh yes. Okay. So the first bankruptcy was on, or the first borrowing of the money actually was on no, April 28th, 1975. Nothing becomes law for 1 year, 1 day. They published the note on May 1st, 1776. The note was borrowed. 1.6 million francs were borrowed from France by Benjamin Franklin. At that point, they created their guidelines for that, which was the Declaration of Independence. The being an adverb, making declaration a verb. Of is the adverb modifying declaration backwards. The prefix de to declaration means to separate from clarity, claration, and ton is contract. So you have no concept of contract. Of is the adverb making independence a verb. There's no such thing as independence as a verb because in is a preposition, but when used as a prefix to all words is a particle of negation, which means no. So if you're doing an interview, you're doing a no review. If you have independence, there's no dependence. If you're doing an investigation, it actually says it's a no investigation. So you've contracted into the adverb scenarios of no law or fact shall be tried in court. So there are no laws, there are no rules. It's about contract, fee for freight, and moving your venue and knowing where you're at in time and space. When most people are born and docked on planet Earth, you come through a port of entry, otherwise known as a hospital. Port being a pronoun, of being an adverb, making entry of a verb. En means no on any prefix to any word, so there's no try. So you're not actually coming in here. The postmaster, banker, doctor autographs the bill of the lading, otherwise known as the certified seal on your birth certificates. Your mother and father are given their surname and their maiden names to make you a bastard so you're not whole on your birth certificates. The birth certificate system ended in 1999. Anybody that had all birth certificates are null and void. This is where the fun begins for me because I know that anybody with a birth certificate can't state a claim. So all the people that are running into court with their birth certificates, none of you can state a claim. Nothing personal. You should have just done a little bit more history and studied and did the homework and the due diligence so that if you do get up and state a claim, that it can stand the test of time, the test of the correctness, and the trust and the validity and the verification of the facts.
So when you actually took the flag, you
Yes.
essentially said to them, this system is null and void now, and I'm going to reconstitute a system, correct?
Well, what we did is we looked at under the law of the flag. Now, the law of the flag, each country has a flag. That flag is you raise the flag or you raise the colors or publish the colors, post the colors when you come into port. And all those who choose to come in contract with you know the rules and guidelines of that contract under that flag. In this country, it was the Title IV, Section 1, 2, and 3 flag, Sections 1, 2, and 3. And so we rewrote that, David-Win-Colin-Miller and myself, Russell-J. Gould. We autographed the stamps under corporation, and we filed a perpetual corporation to the closure of the terms of the Title IV flag. When David died, within the 45-day moratorium, 1 year, 1 day of his death, I published to the world the corporate structures for what David and I had set up because we had a living will in place of the terms of what we had done on a worldwide level. And you can watch that on YouTube under Reno-tilde 1, Reno-tilde 2, Reno-tilde 3. And those were the guidelines of what David-Win-Colin-Miller and Russell-J. Gould set up for corporate structure if we were to pass on. We had certain things under hereditaments, but in David-Win-Colin-Miller's case, his family is not, and did not function in correct communication, parsing, syntax, grammar from the time we wrote the contracts. Therefore, they were not in position to salvage and make a claim on anything that was documented in position. Now, there are a few people out here trying a few things, saying a few things, but if you'll take notice and look at how they conduct a federal postal court, they do not read off a case number, they do not have a flag, and they actually, one of the guys in there actually won't even say his name. He just goes, oh, you guys all know who I am. No, we don't. When you come into a courtroom, you must give closure of who you are. If you watch Federal-Judge David-Win Miller and Federal-Judge Russell-J Gould's every public posting of trial, you will see that we identify a case number and we identify the guideline of the case number through the flag, and we physically have the flag in the courtroom, and we identify our names. When you see people going on YouTube saying they're conducting a court, they have no case number, don't identify their names, and they have no flag, this is fake news. And this misleads, unfortunately, misleads the people, because the average citizen out here is just struggling to get along. They're grasping for something that they think is correct. And so when they turn on these YouTubes, they see something that is misleading the people. And when these people get out on YouTube and they publish their lack of knowledge for the world, we all see it. Those of us in the know just laugh. The people, unfortunately, get hooked. So it's about giving closure to the people, because the first rule of contract is that the citizens, for the people and by the people, have full closure. Once the people have full closure, well, then they can make a choice on how they choose to be governed.
Now, do you believe in the Constitution?
Well, the Constitution, it doesn't ever make a Constitution a verb. However, in each one of my contracts, I have a Constitution on the charter vessel. So what that means is I believe that each one of us has a constitutional duty to perform our constitutional closure, or what you would call your constitutional rights. So what that means is I have a Constitution, yes, but I perform my Constitution. Do the rest of you?
You're holding people accountable to truth in action. Can I say it that way?
Well, correctness. Truth would be subjective interpretation. Correctness is based upon knowledge, comprehension, and the movement of that through volition to create choice of positive performance that benefit our fellow mankind.
And how do people agree to that as common law?
Well, if they can use it and take enjoyment in it, that brings satisfaction.
But can people band together as a city, a town, a country, a group, and say, commonly, we agree to this?
We would concur to that, yes, but they must have knowledge, and they should get a hold of me or some of my team leaders and some of my teams out here, because they can lead them in the correct direction so they don't sink themselves. What I mean by that is there's a lot of good people out here with a lot of good energy, a lot of positive performance, but they're not cognizant that their birth certificates, when they get up and make a statement of a claim, their birth certificates don't allow them to state a claim anymore. That system's over, right? So anybody that's holding a birth certificate, jumping out here saying, oh, I got a solution here and here and here, that's all nonsense. It's all jargon.
And on that note, we'll be right back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. Stay tuned. Boy, do we have a lot more. We'll be right back. And we're back. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio, and you can find all the archives on makinglifebrighter.com. You can go to iTunes and subscribe there, and you can go to Voice America. Russell is an expert in his field of understanding, and he's actually rewritten Now Time. He is the author and the founder of Now Time on Earth, and has the agreement of the UN, the US flag, technically speaking, and he also has the understanding of all the countries around the world of what he's done. Russell, let's talk about that for a minute, and let's have you explain to our audience how the other countries have agreed to what you've done.
Well, when I rewrote the flag, that was just a setup protocol to then allow vessels to go in and out of foreign ports. So I rewrote the guidelines for the International Monetary Fund, disqualifying them, and physically went there and sat down with their attorneys and the World Bank in Washington, D.C. And when I sat down with their attorneys, once they became cognizant of the charters that were on the table that they were reading, they started shaking in their boots, literally shaking in their chairs, trying to pick up the phone. They tried to pick up the phone to call security to get me out of the building because it was so profound that they were actually reading a communication on banking that could translate in all languages in the world and lose no deviation in our sentence structure. So it was a means to allow fair trade for free venture capital from the private sector back into the public sector for world trade market conveyances, backed by hard assets, not in a derivative-based security with a gold back and platinum back and silver back banking bonding to establish the terms of what value and how to trade it, how to warehouse it, how to manufacture it, all those functions, along with a 3,000-page customs and policy for foreign countries from foreign port to move money. So I met with gave that to all embassies at the United Nations, and 82 ambassadors called David and I back in to have a sit-down discussion to talk to them about what I had given to the world. David was on the charters as a witness. I'm the author of the quantum system. I wrote it. It's my concepts. I built it. I know how to use it. I know the terms and what makes it work and what doesn't make work. When I see what people are doing out here now claiming they have a quantum financial system, this is fake news because I didn't authorize it. So anything you see in the public sector, if my fingerprint and thumbprint is not on a contract, it is not a valid banking contract.
Now, excuse me, but why would people believe or acknowledge you to be the sole author of this type of understanding? And not just that you're the first one to do it, which is really brilliant, but what makes you that person?
Knowledge, performance.
Being arrested and beat up and out thinking the entire world system.
Thinking on my feet, creating an established rapport of performance is not, the U.S. judicial system is very cognizant. You have to comprehend, I'm chief judge, right? I figured out a way to order the Supreme Court open and hold trial where they took a gold filing fee backed by my system for performance, filing my bonds and everything necessary to move in and out of that foreign vessel. And I became Chief Judge of the United States Supreme Court on October 1st, 2004. This is based upon performance. And I've spoken with U.S. Marshal Services. Many U.S. Marshals have come up to me and told me they watched the videos of me at the U.S. Supreme Court. This is not, I'm not in a guessing game. Now, the financial system and the world banking system, until they show me a contract, written, correct communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, which I have the copyrights to, and until they come into joinder with my autograph on their contract based upon my satisfaction and my enjoyment of the usury of funds for freight, at that point, then they can join my quantum system. Now you got to comprehend, me and my partner in metallurgy were the only two people on the planet with a strategic metals contract based on a periodic table that's not in a box. All periodic tables in the planet are in a four-cornered box. Every element is in a box. Every atomic mass, every specific gravity, every temperature, every joule, every electron movement is done in an adverb scenario. My system is built in a tetrahedron on trilateral angles for navigation, for tetragrammation, for finding itself in 3 space, 4 space, wherever space coordinates that I need to navigate myself to maintain Earth space banking.
Now, how is that periodic table, besides what you just said, different in what's its addition? What's the hinge point?
Yeah, some matters, some elements are not in the periodic table based upon creating something on a flash of bombardment of electrons, or rearranging the spin on the crystallization of the atomic matter. So I own the copyrights to that. And
How
until
in the world did you come up with that? How did you sit down one day and say, you know what, I really think
I,
I'm going to
when,
rewrite the periodic table?
when I took down the world banking system, I became cognizant that I had to become competent in how to fix it. And that became looked at atomic structure of molecular matters, such as angstroms of gold, silver, platinum, or rhodium, or palladium. And I had to become knowledgeable enough on how to manufacture that so that when citizens join my banking system, that we are backed by something tangible. Because I didn't want to leave the citizens or myself backed on a derivative function of cyberspace mechanics, such as like a Bitcoin or some of these other fake currencies.
And so as you move forward in time, first of all, there will be people that will obviously say, who is this guy? What does he think he's doing? He's got his own banking system and this and that. But you're saying the system you've created is accurate. Can I use that word? It's accurate.
Well, frontwards and backwards through performance in time, which was coming back from the bankruptcy when the United States. See, a lot of these people are out here, and there's a lot of really good people, and they're trying and they're saying that they're going to fix it. They're going to fix it. They're going to fix it. Most of these people started their fixing when they learned about this back in 2007. Mm-hmm. Right? So they're really Johnny-come-latelys into the actual performance of the solutions.
Yeah,
because they didn't have now space authorization to fix anything.
Right.
And even those who are writing in quantum correct communication, parsing, syntax, grammar, quantum grammar, they have not paid the fee for freight to use that which I've created, because I built it based upon a performance. And the performance was based upon a manufacturing concepts that people are trying to steal and use for themselves. And I'm just talking about people around the world.
But are you doing this for the people of the world?
Oh, I'm doing it absolutely for the people of the world. They're more than welcome to use it, but they must have closure of the terms. See, if you're going to use somebody's system, you better pay tribute to that system.
But how does this system benefit the people?
It benefits the people of the world because they can take control of their own lives. There'll be no longer micromanagement upon their sweat equity. There'll no longer be micromanagement on their, you would call it intellectual properties. I do not call it intellectual. Their intelligence and that which they create, that which they manufacture. So it gives a being a position of sovereignty to control the things that they create. And one thing about this journey is there's brilliant minds everywhere, in every theater, in every genre. It's a wonderful collaboration. So it's learning how to communicate with those collaborations and the mathematical interface that people can take a look at the math problem and go, hey, wait a minute, does 1 + 2 = 3? Wait a minute, when I correct that, does 3 - 2 = 1? Does what come in come out? And how that works and the performance of that math equation, people can come to communion with and go, that makes sense.
That was the reason that, if I may interject here, that was the reason we picked it up and we found it so important as far as from a tactical team sergeant's point of view and a psychological operations specialist myself, being that my forte in the military. This grammar has the ability to end all wars on planet Earth, and it's a great tool to have in your toolbox when you're going into these countries and you're trying to get one group of people to get along with the other. You don't have to utilize, State Department protocols and this and that. You can introduce them to the now time quantum grammar construct and explain the syntax to them. People aren't stupid by any means. They can learn. Everybody can be taught. And once they've learned this system, they can utilize it to then create their own contracts between village to village, person to person, corporation to corporation, etc., and so on.
Would
so
you
this
say
is a very valuable tool.
That this is keeping people more honest? It's keeping things on a more even playing field?
Oh, it levels the playing field across the board, absolutely. It keeps the criminality and the fraud out, literally.
People are trying to take this over. People are trying to, what if somebody rogue in a government takes this very system and uses it negatively?
That's exactly why we did the War Castles video, to make sure that Russell was given all of the credit for having built this construct, along with David Miller. God bless him and God rest his soul. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about
who the author was.
You're talking about banking systems. You're talking about the Constitution. You're talking about the post office, technically.
The health, the World Health. See, you got to comprehend. I syntax the World Health Organization, the CDC, all of those doctors. See, the concept of doctor, and when they get their doctor's license, it means that they're going to practice.
That's our cue. We'll be right back. We're going to get right into that because that's our space. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. This is going to get even bigger. You're listening to Making Life Brighter Radio. We're back, and we're speaking today with Russell J. Gould. He is the commander and chief of the Quantum Now Time and syntax language, which is leveling the playing field worldwide. And just let's jump into what you had to say a second ago, Robert. Robert Horton is Special Operational Forces, and he is also spoken with other operational forces about this. How is the military and how are the people in the world, like the police departments and all that, taking this kind of information in? This would turn them on their head. What they're loyal to, what they're doing, how they're doing it, who they take commands from. How is this working in the world?
Well, they've taken it with a grain of salt, I can tell you that much. There's a lot of guys out there that absolutely understand it. They get it. They get the big reveal that was laid out in War Castles that you and I will get to here at the end of this interview. But yeah, they get it, and they're all for it. There's a lot of guys that are all for it and 110% behind it and want it to come forward. But in the meantime, they're just watching it manifest. You know?
So technically, these people can't respond on anything unless they're told to. So that's their job. And what would have to happen for this to turn so that they would incorporate it and respond differently? And who would be in control of that?
Well, you'd have to start with the city council level. You'd have to get the city council to really listen to what the people want, and if the people want to use quantum grammar contracts in relation to their banking or their mortgages and stuff like that, then the city council has to tell the banks, hey, this is how our people want to operate here, and they have to approach the banks and approach these corporations for the people and make this a reality. So it's a grassroots kind of thing. It's got to start.
People would have to be educated as quickly as Russell speaks about this. The people would have to be educated in terms of how to actually write these things out, how to understand it and have it exact, and who would govern that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
The people would govern themselves and their own contracts. The verb of thinking, you can put people's condition of thinking on trial. Because the prepositional phrases, you preset the facts so that all that's looked at is now the how, the why, the where on the condition of thinking on the verb in the contract. We use two verbs. We use the verb is, which is singular, and are, which is plural. And so when you become cognizant on how to use the functions of the correct communication parsing syntax grammar or quantum grammar, it's got different functions and different names, the performance is based on those who you choose to commune in and out, or come in joinder in and out of contract with that specific contract or that specific person of being corporate. And so, you have your life birth beings, and then you have your corporate person position, right? So you separate the sovereignty of thinking, which then creates a corporate entity, because corporations is what they use as a utility to transport legal entities, legal names, performances of terms of contract are all done through corporations. The post office authorizes in every country that country's departments, such as military, health, transportation, agricultural, noterior, what they call interior. See, because in's a preposition, but when used as a prefix to a word means no. That's why they call it the Department of Noterior, interior, noterior. Terriers, T-E-R is earth, I-O-R is contract, no earth contract. Welcome to the Department of Interior.
How did you ever come to this? How did you sit down
Well,
one day and say,
well, I
I'm going to
believe it.
do this?
Believe it or not, I studied old dictionaries. I studied all prefixes and suffixes to words. The suffixes normally moved words or into a conditional state of past tense or into a conditional state of an adverb. All words ending in ly are adverbs. So we studied that. We studied old dictionaries. It held consistent through all dictionaries that in is a preposition, but when used as a prefix means no. So if you're doing an interview, you're doing a no-terview. You're doing an investigation, it's a no-vestigation. You know, so you.
So this is technically a conversation.
Yeah, well, our minds and our thinking has been conditioned into a performance of negativity.
Right.
That's what we have out here. We're looking for performances of positive to create positive manifestations for our fellow mankind.
Right.
We can get along with each other. We can communicate, and we can start having fun.
Right. From a warfare perspective, you know, the schoolhouses have to be set up. The schoolhouses for this language have to be set up. There's got to be people teaching it and retraining the mind.
So this is the future of educational syntax, of agreements and contractual agreements. And
actually, here's a true story. I published on about 26 federal judges that they were using cursive writing when they were writing commands. When you look at the word a cursive and you run all the synonyms on cursive, it will take you into enrapture, enchantment, all these negative words, en, right? So, but what it will also take you into the word of necromancy. Necromancy being the black art of the communication of the dead.
yeah.
Well, if everybody has a birth certificate, you're all legally dead on paperwork, and then they use that contract, which has no authorization, to substantiate all the usury contracts you jump in from your driver's license, your passports, your insurance, and all the things that you do in your world. To go to school, you need your birth certificate. So you can only be dead people communicating with dead people. When I published the necromancy of the cursive writing, the school system and the Department of Education took out cursive writing in the school systems. So they took out cursive writing based upon that performance. So they changed, but they changed very slowly.
Interesting. Yes, I remember that. That's really fascinating. Wow. I have so many questions to ask you. We're going to have to continue on, and we're going to make an outtake to this, and you can check it out on makinglifebrighter.com, because this is so fascinating. We have so much to cover. In fact, in that outtake, we're going to jump into what you were about to say regarding the CDC and the health system and everything else. So you all can go to makinglifebrighter.com and check out the outtake there and listen to more. But you know, I have so many questions. My goodness, we're going to cover a lot. I'd like to ask you, what do you think about Notre Dame?
It was a house of ill repute, and eventually I guess they just decided to burn it down. Yeah, it had been infiltrated and had become a house of ill repute. Now I don't know how long that actually kept on going, but you know.
All right. Well, we're going to jump into the Pentagon, your visit to the Pentagon, your visit to the Vatican, and everything else that's in my head right now, including the CDC and the health stuff in the supplement, because there are people out there, Russell, that would consider you an angel. Thank you for coming and being with us today. Everybody check out the supplement on makinglifebrighter.com. Thank you, Russell, for being with us, and thank you, Robert Horton, for coming on Making Life Brighter Radio.
Thank you for having me, Winifred. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having us. Thank you very much.
One man is being told that his land is not his own now. He has no place called home. He must learn to be and grow and find time to feed his soul.